Are you doing the intro?
Yeah, so we're now live, Alice.
Oh, right.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm sorry we're late. We've had broadband issues, but we're here and we're on. It's just gone 8 o'clock. It must be time for one thing, Alice.
Yeah, Spiritual Talk Live.
Oh gosh, even my. Hi, Alice. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Spiritual Talk. How you doing, Alice?
I'm doing all right. Apart from there is a lot of interference.
We did. We had one now biting moment there. I had no broadband. Just had to reset my broadband, running backwards and forwards in and out the house. So, but we're here. Touch wood, we've made it. It's going to be a good one.
It's still interfering though, darling.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah. It's coming through strong, my side, guys. If you Paul, you are buzzing. Oh,
you're buzzing. You're buzzing, darling. You're buzzing.
Am I buzzing? Let me try. I'm just going to keep going. So I don't know what's going on. We've got the heebie-jeebies with the broadband tonight. But it's now season 5, episode 2.
Yep.
We're now flying. Now, we love giving messages to you guys. Can you still hear me all right, by the way?
Not very great, Paul, to be honest. Not very great. It's a lot of crackling and buzzing.
Is it? I don't know. Let me get rid of. I'll tell you what. I'm going to turn off my phone because sometimes phones can interfere. But I use my phone for the intro, so I'm going to turn off my phone. We're going to get there. I'm going to turn off my phone and see if that makes any difference. Doesn't normally interfere, but you just don't know. How is that? Any better? I should talk actually so you can hear me.
Oh,
yeah, everyone's saying vocals not good.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll also try. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Is it working now? Anyone? Any better?
No.
Anytime possibly crackling. Oh no, this is killing me a little bit.
No.
Alice, so did you want to tell people about what we're doing at the end with the messages? You can't hear me.
Well, tonight we're doing something a little bit different, though, aren't we, Paul? We're doing something different tonight. So we are going to do messages this evening, but we're going to leave from here and go into Zoom. So it'll be a much better experience, a bit of closer connection with you all, and we'll be able to relay messages. Hopefully the both of us see how it goes tonight, and relay messages on Zoom. You know, so it'll be a better chance for people with the connection for us to relay some messages from the spirit world.
Yeah, I'm going to pop out and try and come back in. Did you want to introduce and bring Mandy in so I can pop out? At least you guys can have a chat amongst yourself while I leave the studio and come back in again.
Okay, all right, no problem. Okay.
So tonight, guys, if you can hear me, okay, we've got the fabulous medium, Mandy, Louise, Alice, I'll leave it over to you, but I'm going to bring Mandy in now into the live.
Okay. There we go. There's our lovely Mandy.
Good evening, Alice. How are you?
Oh, I'm absolutely fine. Welcome. So we've got Mandy, Louise, Paul with us this evening. Now, Mandy, well, we met back a long while ago, didn't we, Mandy?
It's about 9 years ago now, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think it was that or longer even. And you do so much, Mandy. I mean, you're a spiritual medium, but you're also you do ESP as well. And what's the other stuff that you do? Tell us all about everything.
Obviously, I'm a spiritual medium and a healer. Yeah. I'm doing a National Federation of Spiritual Healing course in Florida. I'm an out-of-body facilitator and a remote viewer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, and you also do chanting as well.
I do, yeah. I did Buddhist mantra for 10 years, and I went out to teach it. So I have done some chanting with Alice in a group that she provided.
That's right. That was fun that night. It was very good, and the healing was amazing. Really, really good. And we've got Paul back again. So
yes, I don't know if you can hear me. All right.
Yeah, yeah,
fine.
yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
I didn't have all the information in front of me, so I couldn't read it really. Everything that you actually do. I was trying to remember off my head there.
We're having some real technical issues, and I'm not going to mention any names, but they've changed the way certain systems work. So apologies for any technical problems. Hopefully we've got on top of it and we can move forward. It's lovely to have you here, Mandy. And did you explain about the messages at the end, Alice, as well, that we're going to go into Zoom?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Great. And we're going to share the link. I've got the link right in front of me. I'll share the link in the messages in amongst the show, so you guys can come and join us for some free messages. But sorry, guys, should we get on with this? I'm back. I'm not on vacation. That's actually next week. That's why I'm here. I should have explained at the beginning. I'm so sorry, Mandy. But it was supposed to be Jane and yourself, but I'm actually away next week. So Jane's back covering for me next week as well.
Okay, no problem.
Right. So, guys, how far did you get in the conversation?
Well, we quite well, really. Obviously, because I met Alice. We met at the Arthur Findlay College, and it was quite some circumstance, to be fair. We'd gone for a trance and physical weekend, and obviously, at the Arthur Findlay College, they try all sorts of different techniques to communicate with spirit. So we decided to do a seance in the library, and we all had to hold hands and start to sing. Well, by this point, I'm sat there thinking, how many more songs do we have to sing before something happens? So I decided to do a fabulous impression of a horse, okay, in the dark. Right. And everybody was absolutely in uproar. And that actually lifted the energy. And I got a fabulous message through the ghost box. But since then, every time me and Alice meet, it always seems to fetch up back to the horse impression, you see, because somebody actually thought a horse had materialized in the circle.
They did.
Wow.
It was that real. They literally, obviously everybody must have been the same situation in anticipation, waiting for something to happen. It was fabulous.
It was, yeah. That was a great time, though.
It was a great time, and in the bar afterwards, you can imagine it. So yeah, it was fabulous.
Yeah, it sounds really good. But how did everything start for you, Mandy? Are you a natural born medium, or?
Well, I only found out possibly maybe within the past 10 years with my uncle. I mean, he's passed away now, but it was my dad's brother. And I knew that my grandmother was a medium in a local church, to be fair, but I could never understand why my granddad played the organ in the spiritualist church. Anyway, I just presumed he played the organ because of my grandmother, but it were actually him as the medium, and he was a physical medium. And I was just in awe, really, because I have 6 children, and I'm the only one that's actually even asked questions to my uncle. Obviously, my father's not here now, but it were questions to ask my uncle, and he said, you're the only one out of the family that's come forward with this information. So he told me loads of stories and such things, and it were amazing. I was just in awe in what he were telling me. And he says, well, clearly it's been passed on to you. But since a child, I'd say from the age of 3, I noticed things were just a little bit different. I mean, obviously, I've got 5 brothers and sisters, so I feel being young at 3, really in my head I were 10, if you know what I mean, because you learn so much so quickly. I remember being in a supermarket, and this lady come up to me and told me she was my grandma. And I thought, he can't be my grandma. That's my mum. It's not my grandma. I thought that's what she said. But this lady was in a attire that wasn't matching with everybody else. So because I accepted that, things escalated. And then I started to notice things differently. Obviously, I was at home. They all left home, my family. And then obviously Spirit came a lot closer by this point. And I can tell you a lovely story. It's a funny story. I don't know about anybody else who's ever done this, but I used to have a Christmas tree in the town where we all lived, and there were the proper bulbs, if you remember the proper bulbs on the tree. Now, my favourite colour was yellow, and there were 4 colours. There were yellow, green, blue, and red. And for some reason, I picked the red one. I have no idea, but I do now why I picked the red one. So obviously, I took my bulb out of my house and put this red bulb in. Things really escalated at that point. Things were moving, things were changing. There were lots of activity in my bedroom, and I thought it must be that bulb, so I took it out. and never used it again. But obviously at that point I'd really escalated the spiritual side, and obviously as a physical medium myself, things really escalated at that point. So when I was 15, I remember looking into the mirror. It was going dusky, and I was looking in the mirror, and my grandfather was looking at me at the side of me through the mirror, and I thought, now this gentleman, which was my mum's father, had passed away before she had any children. And he was looking at me. So I thought, if he's looking at me, he must be stood outside of me. So obviously, when I looked outside of me, he wasn't there. So I slept with light on for the next 3 months, because obviously it was quite scary at that time. And I couldn't tell anybody about it because nobody else had said things. I mean, my sister had seen my grandma in spirit, and my other sister had seen something else, but never really developed anything. So obviously, when I got older and, I had my family, things started to escalate again. So for the past 20 odd years now, that's what I've been doing. So it was really interesting how it found me, if you will.
Yeah.
Again, after having my children and such, because I think you're so distracted with children, you just don't got time for anything else, have you? You just get on with your life, and that's how it goes. But I've been meditating since I was 27, which is quite some years now.
Yeah, that's some time.
Can anybody hear a voice going on in the
I think that's because I'm a physical medium. Somebody's coming through to wanting to talk.
Do you hear this?
I hope you're recording this, so you'll be able to look back on it.
It's definitely being recorded.
It is a man. I mean, Paul wasn't speaking, but there's a man's voice in the background.
There is this coming through and talking, you see. This is what happens when I'm in my group. They come through and talk, and sometimes they talk before we even start, telling us what we need to do or why we need to do it and such things. So this gentleman's talking, I can hear him.
Can you hear that?
This, apparently someone said Dalek, potentially. But that's interesting why we could be having all these technical issues.
Paul, we can hardly hear you at all. You're like a Dalek.
Again.
I think he's possibly taking you out so we can speak.
I think so.
Fine. That's quite possible.
And it's wonderful when we get these voices that come through, and I have a friend who translates what's coming through. And obviously it's one of my team, so they're coming through and like saying, why you're on here, what you're doing. Sometimes I'm just saying to Alice that I could be talking to a couple of friends on Zoom, just another friend on Zoom, and then another box will come up on the screen. There's no face in it, but another box comes up for a third person coming in, and then they start talking again.
I can definitely hear another man's voice, and Paul isn't talking when that's happening.
No,
it's
wonderful, isn't it, how they use technology to come in?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I could definitely hear, and I can see with some of the comments here as well that people can. Yeah, here's Jordan as well. Happened with me, man, doing Zoom.
Well, this is easy because spirits are not interfering as such, but they're talking to you, knowing full well that you can hear them, and they've got certain. I mean, you've had somebody here who had a computer as well to understand and break it down to work out what they were saying sometimes. And this is what we're doing with my Zooms. I'm sending them to this lady that's translating it for me. Sometimes it's in other languages also, which is fabulous.
Well, have you managed to break some of it down and listen to what actually had been said?
Yeah, they've just been talking about that sometimes I'm not supposed to be on that group at that particular time. They want me to sit further, more so than actually demonstrate. So that's what I do. I come away from it a little bit and then sit more, and then obviously it stops. And then obviously that's what happens when you're in a daily life. It's whether you're aware of it or not. And when you've just been talking earlier about EVP or ESP, which EVP is electronic voice phenomena, they can come in any time throughout the day. I mean, everybody on here must have heard someone shout their name at some time and turn around thinking, did you say something? No, I didn't say anything. And you've heard it. This is how it goes. And then, that's how it is really. So because there's three of us here, and there's obviously a lot more people here really, isn't there, in consciousness, if you will, they're utilising their energy to be able to come forward.
Yeah. It stopped when you left, Paul.
Is it back again?
Well, he might come back again now. Now he knows that you're not talking like a Dalek.
Okay, fingers crossed. I'm not going to say too much and let you guys do the talking.
Yeah,
it's coming again. I can feel him coming in again. Actually,
I can feel it come. Yeah. It's like it's coming through your system. using your system at your end, really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
I can
it
feel
do,
it.
you see,
I can feel it starting again now. Yeah, I can feel it starting again now.
It's wonderful, really, because obviously we're sitting for physical. You're getting to know who's there and why and what's the purpose. So it's wonderful, isn't it? I mean, you know, obviously sometimes there's transfiguration as well, which happens in my group. And the thing is, with that is there's a purpose for it. And this is what that purpose is, what we're seeking and searching for. What's that purpose? Yeah, so it's wonderful when you can physically see it more so than, like you say, than not just hear it.
Yeah. So I think what I was asking you, though, when they broke down all the words, did it mean anything? Did it make sense? When it was
I had it before we had lockdown. I used to have a group. I used to sit with this gentleman, and both my team member and his team member used to have a conversation in Chinese. Now, we recorded some of these recordings and was trying to find somebody who can understand Chinese. So it was really interesting how, but with the Chinese could easily have been Tibetan. Now, because I do mantra, when I did my mantra, it's in Sanskrit, but I am actually teaching myself at the moment Tibetan mantra.
Right.
So I felt like that's why I was coming in to instruct me on what mantras to use.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounded Chinese, but it was Tibetan.
Oh, right. Right. Sorry, I'm just having a problem here.
Are you having technical issues too, Alice?
Yeah.
Well, it's probably just the thing is with him coming in, you see. I mean, I don't know if you can notice on my screen, there's lots of like waves on the screen. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what happens when he comes and utilizes. He's using the energy to come in. So I might transfigure just spontaneously. So don't worry about it, anybody. But when he comes in, he likes to let people know there is here.
So you've naturally gone towards transfiguration and trance mediumship. That's your bag, I want to say.
Not necessarily my bag. They're not trans-speaking. It's mainly transfiguration. I was just saying to Alice that I'm fortunate that I have Helen Duncan's granddaughter as my mentor, and she's been advising me what I need to do and how and so forth. So I just follow her lead, really. She lives in Massachusetts, and we do converse on a regular basis. And she stayed with me a couple of times before pandemic and such. So we do. It's a natural development, not a forced development, if you will. You know, so we're just taking us time, and when it's meant to be, it'll be, or if it'll just continue, just be transfiguration.
Yeah. Alice is now popped out of the studio as well. It's really affected the energy. It's really interesting.
It's very powerful, the energy, because obviously I've been sitting for 27 years now, and when I did Buddhist mantra, which I still do mantra, it's a very powerful, not prayer, if you will, but a powerful invocation of what you actually need when you need it at the time you need it. Because we did a class for me and Alice, and so many people benefited from it via Zoom when we're in lockdown. And she said she'd like to do it again. And I'm going to set up a class in a physical sense here, but hopefully do one via Zoom because people obviously can't get to the venues and such. But it's very healing, and it's very knowledgeable, would you believe, as a language, Sanskrit, for instance. When you do chanting, you've got anything from 2 to 29 syllables of a mantra. I can do up to 30, 35 mantras, and they just flow off the top of my head. But the bonus of mantra is that it allows you to focus your mind and allows it to be at zero, so you can't think of anything else when you chant. So it's actually very healing and very, very good for mediumship as well, good for you to communicate with consciousness.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other thing I was going to ask you, and I've been dying to ask this, one of the things you do, you're an out-of-body facilitator.
Yes, I'm doing a lecture actually on Saturday at a local venue for the People's Health Alliance. They've asked me to talk about it. An out-of-body facilitator it actually found me. And when I think about what I've done in the past, this is possibly where I'm at right now. An out-of-body facilitator, basically, I carry your consciousness with me so you can experience your own, but I project to you into the afterlife for you to meet up with family, your ancestors and animals that have passed over. So many people say, well, how does that work? Yes, this is what people keep asking. How does it work? Through the meditation that I've undertaken for over 27 years and the Buddhist mantra in conjunction, monks are capable of doing this also. I've had my brain checked out frequency checked out in 3 countries, America, Holland, and in the UK at the college to understand what frequency. So there's something called what my frequency is at is equivalent to a Buddhist monk's, but it's because of them, not only because of the meditation, but I did something some 12 years ago, and it was called the Gateway Program, which you can find on the Monroe Institute's website. If you want to write that down, it's the Monroe Institute website. Yeah. They do a Gateway Program over a weekend now, but they did it over 10 weeks when I did it. Now I was the only one that were responding to the techniques. Okay, so it's not everybody will respond to it, but the fact is as well, it will give you an opportunity to enter that gateway, the stellar gateway, or whatever you want to call it. But I did that some 12 years ago. But before that, you see, I did mantra, I did meditation, and it's all a combination, really. So the thing is why I want to teach mantra for people to understand that. I mean, Alice loved it when we did it, and the group really thoroughly enjoyed the benefits from that. When I have these out-of-body experiences, most people look back at themselves on the bed and they see themselves, and there's a lot of fear there. What that actually is showing you that it's showing what it's like when you pass. You could find out what it's like when you pass when you're young, when you're middle-aged, or when you're in your 90s. Yeah. What happens is if you can do it when you're younger, you'll do it more and more. But for me, what's the purpose of looking back at yourself? For me, I find that no purpose at all. But obviously, I have no fear. I've not a fear of anything. You know, I'm not scared of anything, but that's something else. But when I take people, not only can I project myself out my body spontaneously, I can take somebody else with me. Now, this is what the facilitator scenario is. Now, I don't know if anybody has watched the film Contact with Jodie Foster, because that's the experience that I can offer you. The amount of testimonials that people have given me literally blow my mind and not theirs. I mean, there's an actor there out there called Max Ryan. He was in Sex and the City too. He had this experience. He was absolutely blown away by it. He just couldn't believe that he not only met up with his brother, he met up with his father on Venice Beach. I've never been to Venice Beach, and I think it's in Florida somewhere. I don't know. Los Angeles, I don't know where it is. So he had this experience, and he was having this communication and conversation like we are now. Yeah. And he just absolutely loved it. He just couldn't believe what he was experiencing, but he was conscious of the experience. You see, when you go to sleep at night, you allow yourself to come out your body, but you're not aware of it. Yeah. Because of the frequency, I'm able to keep you awake while you're having this experience, but also for you to have the communication yourself instead of using the medium. Okay. Now, obviously, I'm a medium and a healer and so forth, but the fact that you can have this experience and meet your family, you could be on a park bench, it could be on a mountaintop, it could be on the beach, you choose.
What you're describing is the Holy Grail. Everyone wants to be able to dip in and out of different realities where we can communicate with our loved ones.
Yes.
So, just before we go too much further, Dot Cooper. Hi, Dot. She's asked if we can repeat that information.
Which do you mean about the Monroe Institute in West Virginia?
Yeah,
it's the Monroe Institute. They've got a website, and they do the Gateway weekend period now. To get there in October, on there that I need to investigate. So they're asking me to go there in October. Now, the other thing is with the Monroe Institute, I did an experiment with, I'm a remote viewer, okay? I have an ability to find people, objects, all sorts of different things, animals, trinkets, phones, and all this kind of thing. Because obviously the extrasensory perception, which Alice was asking earlier about. Now, remote viewing found me. I found somebody missing in the Bali earthquake some 5 years ago. Alive and well through my senses, okay? And a lot of people might know about psychometry. And I literally just put this ring in my hand and it took me to Bali. But that actually found me. I had no idea it was remote viewing until I spoke to some friends in America. So I had an experiment with a lady who was in America and I was here. So there is no time difference in remote viewing. So, for example, it was 4 o'clock my time, 10 o'clock their time. So what we did is while my friend was had this ECG machine on in America, she had to view what I was looking at and vice versa. So she thought I was drinking tea and eating cake like the British do, but it wasn't that at all. And I described where she was right down to who was sitting next to her and what sex they was. So it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. And the lady who were doing that, she said, you need to get this lady here. So they invited me to go and work with a guy called Joe McGonigal, who's the #1 remote viewer on the planet. Not joking you, it was 6 10-hour intensive days, and we had military training. And 21 people from around the world that was picked. There were 5 women and 16 men. Sorry, 6 women and 15 men. There were 21 of us in total. And it literally was mind blowing. It took me 3 months to work out what I'd done while I was there.
So who was this guy's #1? What was his name again?
Joe McGonigal. He's the #1 in the world for what he does. But I've found out that he only works 87%, whereas I work at 100%. Anyway, I won't go into that.
What does that mean? What does that mean, Lindy?
He's found 2 people, yeah. At the time when he started out, he'd got 2 people out of the Afghan conflict. He knew where they was, yeah. I found 2 people and 2 animals. So obviously, big boost up your sort of thing going on, with what you're capable of doing. So it's extrasensory perception, basically. It was really interesting how I got to work with him, and literally it was a wonderful experience because he was involved with the Stargate project, which was, I don't know if you ever heard about the Stargate project.
I've heard of the film and the series. I'm sure people have.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's based along a similar sort of line.
Yes, well, the Stargate project, all the military personnel was involved with that, and I'm in touch with all of the military personnel now. It's really quite interesting. I did something not too long ago with a gentleman called Major Paul Smith talking about remote viewing and out-of-body experiences, because he seems to think that you're not out of your body when you are viewing, but I'm sensing that you are out of your body when you're viewing the target. So this is what we had a bit of a conversation about. I'll send it to you, Paul, and you'll let you watch it yourself.
Yeah. Essentially, there's a lot of stuff on this remote viewing, isn't there? There's a few books out there as well, and the programs. I didn't know it was called the Stargate program. I know the CIA and there's other people that use mediums, etc. Not just mediums, but people that are very good at having this ability.
Yeah, we all have the ability, but the strength's the practice.
Yeah.
And this is what I was explaining to Alice, that doing a class, which I have a group on a Thursday, I have a group where people are actually coming out the body, going to meet the family and wherever they want to meet them. Yes, because of the abilities are combined, obviously being a medium. But the other side to it is we are now exploring other people that's not related, like Nelson Mandela. We went to the Hawaiian conservatory last year, the observatory where they're doing looking for whatever they're looking for. And we do some quite kind of different locations, which is really interesting because it's different every week. So we're all going, because obviously me being able to carry your consciousness with mine, I'm taking 3, 4, 5 people now with me where they want to go. Okay, so it only used to be just one person. I've done it with 2 people, but now I'm doing it with 5. And Alice is wanting to join to experience this.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Hang on. Can I just nudge in here as well? There's going to be loads of people that want to come on this.
Well, that's fine. It's because it gives them an opportunity to meet up with their family themselves. And there's certain things you have to say to your family. You know what I mean? There's stuff that you couldn't say here that you want to say there. And it's just like we're talking now. There's nothing different about it. The only thing that's different is the physical presence. Yeah, for example, a guy approached me for a documentary in Arizona to do a documentary about it. So he advised me to get testimonials of people to write about their experience. So this is what I'm gathering now. So if you want to try that, I'm happy to gather. And anybody else wants to try it, I'm happy for them to gather that information. And for example, this guy in Florida said to me when he had the experience, because there's people from around the world that has, he said it was just like the experience that Jodie Foster had in The Contact. He said, I can't believe it. I can't believe how awake I was to I actually felt like I was there. I said, well, of course you was there. I've projected you into the afterlife. So he put me onto this gentleman in Italy. Now, this gentleman in Italy, I won't give any names, but he lost his son. He was driving the car with his wife, and his 7-year-old son died instantly from a drink driver. Okay. So he really needed to meet up with his son because obviously he needed to talk to him.
Yeah.
And so this gentleman put me onto him, and we sat there and we tried it. He could feel himself coming out of his body. But then he came back in. He said, I can't do it. He says, why? I'm frightened of what my son would think of me. I says, well, it's okay. We'll do it in 2 weeks' time. So we did. 2 weeks' time, exactly from that time, because there's no time and space, remember, in when you pass over. It's just a different frequency. So he had this experience again, and he met up with his son on the beach in Italy, where they used to go as when they were a child. And sat there with his son, doing sandcastles, talking to him. Everything was just as normal as anything. Jordan Riley's just commented, tomorrow will be amazing because he's in my group. Oh, so okay. So this little boy, he met up with this little boy, but only as he's talking to this little boy on this beach, his father's coming along the beach towards him and sits with all three of them sat on this beach having this conversation. So you can imagine, not only is it that he's seeing his son and his father, but the healing from that is unbelievable. Yeah. And when he came back out, when we were aware when he was talking to me, he just had tears coming down his face. There were no sound, but there he got the healing that he needed, knowing full well his son was okay and okay that he was with his father. So it's just unbelievable. And if I can offer that service to anybody, I'm prepared to do so.
Yeah, the voices are back again.
Yeah. I'm talking about it because when I come out of my body, you see, I'm communicating from different. How would I like to say what it's like? Basically, this is your physical body, yeah, and then you've got your etheric bodies, yeah. Now, what happens with them in your life? They get not damaged, but they get baggage. I would call it baggage, yeah. So what happens is with this out-body experience, I put it back in sync, if you will, yeah. So then, where you need to be is where you will be going, where you need to be right now in this time and space in your life. Okay, so you're going into different realities. And if you would like to say it, like either mopping up or clearing up what you don't need.
Yeah, I understand.
He met up with his son, he met up with his father, and that he said it took him 2 weeks to write a testimonial, to put it into words. So this is what we do. It takes him a while to write one because it's like, how do I write that? How do I? Yes, I found out this. I was able to do this. It's about 10 years ago now. This lady had. I was supposed to go out for a drink with this lady's teacher, and then she told me, and she messaged me, I can't go. My mum's just slipped, cracked her hip, and on the patio, she's having an emergency operation. I just said, I'll go and see her. I thought, I'll go and see her. What do you mean I'll go and see her? She's in hospital. Well, I sat in my room. I went to go and see her. I saw her at the bottom of the bed and I told her I think we're going to be fine. I went down to theatre with her and they said that she'd be home in 7 days. So don't you worry, you're going to be home in 3. So I came back into my body, carried on. Got a text in the morning. I was still in bed at the point. It was 8:30 and the text had come through at 6 o'clock. Obviously, a daughter had to travel for teaching when she was a teacher. Oh my God, man, you're not going to believe this, but I'm going to tell you anyways. When you said you were going to go and see my mum, she actually saw you at the side of the bed. Telling her this, she saw you going down to theatre, talking to her and telling her that she was going to be home in 3 days, and she was. So she was a wonderful testimonial, and she signed it, and I still have it today. So this it blows my mind. So we all have this ability, but we're not always aware of it because you're asleep. And also meditation and mantra as a to connect to your family any given one time and any time and space as well. So it's a wonderful experience.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to having you on in a couple of weeks' time as well.
Okay.
So I hope you can maybe do a out of body experience.
Yeah, like I say, it would be lovely. For everybody in the group. Yeah, we'll just give it a shot and see how it goes. And like I say, Jordan, who's just come on there, he's in my group and has been for a time, and he absolutely loves it. It's just literally, to be honest, mind blowing.
Yeah.
And the other bonus of it is you're conscious. You're not unconscious.
Yeah.
You see, people thought it was trance. So when you're in trance, you're not aware. Yeah. If it's hypnosis too, you're not aware. Yeah. You're actually conscious of this experience, and that's the bonus. Sometimes people think, I don't want to do it. I'm scared. I don't want to come out of it. Will I come back? Will I be able to come back? That's the first thing you say. Will I come back? Of course you'll come back. It's not your time yet. And when we're there, I'm about 10 feet away, and I get a lot of people turning around and looking back at me saying, have I got 5 more minutes? Because 5 more minutes in afterlife is like, it's probably 50, maybe 2 hours long. Or,
So, can I ask a question? Is this something we can do
to kind of practice ourselves if you wanted to try it at home?
You could try it. I'm not saying it would work. Because of the frequency that I've gathered through meditation and mantra and such, I mean, people could try it. I mean, a lot of people are usually asleep when they have this experience, but they're not consciously aware of it. They could try it. I can't say a yay or nay, but because it found me, I've just continued with it. Like I say, I do feel that the Gateway program enhanced it, and I would definitely say that mantra did too. Monks can actually do this at any given one time. There are a gentleman called Padre Pio were able to be spotted in 2 places at once. So it's just dedication. It's like anything else. With anything, it's like knitting. I mean, probably a lot of people only can knit, but can they knit a jumper? Probably not. But they'll give it a go. So it's, if they wanted to try it, they can, and I'd love to hear the feedback if they manage to do it, and But it's not a case of doing it yourself. It's taking somebody else with you, which is the.
Yeah, absolutely. See, I know a gentleman that used to work for an oil company, and he got stuck out in Nigeria. I mean, really got stuck. His Jeep broke down. He needed some spares, and he was in this village for about a month before he got the spares for his vehicle. And the local witch doctor was teaching him how to go and visit his friends, and he would talk about being in a position where, through the dream state, before you fall asleep, just quietening the body just at that point when you're about to fall asleep. This is the hardest thing, because I've tried this as well, that you can come out of your body, but then your body becomes aware, or you're still in your body, and then your heart starts to race because you're quite excited because you're coming out your body. So you got this kind of oxymoron push-pull thing, and you're back in your body.
Yeah, but with this, we're coming out of your body. When I take you out your body, you're out quite a while. Yeah, it's quite a long time. I go down to about 2 beats a minute through the heart. Yeah, and then obviously when I'm in that space where you're in that space with your family, you're having the conversation and doing what you need to get from that family member or ancestor, for that matter, at your speed. Yeah, so it could be anything from 20 minutes to 40 minutes out of my body. Yeah, and being quite happy to be away from it. Okay. But I can actually come and sit next to you, Paul, if you like.
Sounds brilliant. I'm up for that. Sounds really good.
It is. It's and the other factor is with it, you're aware of that too. You're aware of me being with you in the room.
So I've been aware of that in a dream state recently, where I've been conscious that I'm asleep, but I'm awake, and I've actually come out of the body. So I don't know. I'm looking around the room like I'm awake, then realize actually I'm asleep.
Yes. But what did you learn from that? What did you see any family?
No. So there was 2 people that said to me, "Come on, we want to work with you." They basically took me off, and I do remember traveling with them.
Yeah.
So and then came back again, and the last thing I remember was coming back in through the layers and then coming back into the body.
Yeah, this is what it's explaining to you, that there is no. This is just our physical self, not our etheric selves. Our etheric selves are the ones that survive. Yeah, it just take the fear out of death. My husband's auntie had motor neurons, and they didn't give her very long. So I went to go and see her. I went to see her 2 or 3 times, and every time I sat with her, she met up with her husband, who'd already passed a year earlier. And then she said to me, "I want to thank you." She says, "because you've took the fear away of death for me."
Yeah.
Going forward where she was going. And while I was in the room we were talking, her mother came in. So she was over the moon with that.
Oh, that's beautiful. I mean, you can't get better than that. Being able to bridge that gap, and
it is a bridge. It's basically a bridge, and it's if I can offer it for anybody, and if they want it, I'm quite happy to do that.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're going to get a lot of takers, I imagine, after tonight.
Well, like I say, it's the healing aspect also, and there is a lot of fear. I understand the fear. This one guy in America who had this experience, he was a tall gentleman, quite a wide gentleman, and he wanted this experience. Now, I was out my body instantly, and I'm waiting for him to come out of his body, and he was like Velcro, literally. He was having a battle with himself. Then when he finally came out of his body, he thought, what were all the fuss? Well, we went to Rio de Janeiro. He met up with his grandma. He was in Hawaii. We went here, there, and everywhere. We were absolutely made up. We didn't want to come back. And I says, well, we have to go back. So we can do it again. And he really didn't want to come back into his body. He was quite happy to stay where he was. So you can understand when people do pass, what it's actually like when you're actually there.
Yeah.
It's just obviously another different frequency, but it's so real as what it is as we're talking now. Because where we're talking now, we're not actually aware of what our surroundings are we?
Yeah. Within that as well, Mohammed, is there, gosh, how can I say this without sounding too bad?
Say what you want to say.
What is there ethics in this? Can you imagine you're out of your body and like, where do you want to go, guys?
Exactly, you can go wherever you want.
Go, guys.
I'm just a facilitator and facilitating your experience. I'm the rocket fuel for you to go.
It's funny, isn't it? When you're in your body and you can think of places to go, you probably think about 15. But when you're out your body, you're like, that'll be my life. I actually don't know where I want to go. But
it's really interesting because obviously it's a simultaneous situation. You know what I mean? And they're just absolutely blown away. This one lady, for example, this experience, she became a dolphin and she was swimming next to a submarine. And she even remembers the divots at the side of the submarine. When she was writing a testimonial, she said, I couldn't believe it. I could see all the divots in the submarine. It blew me away.
Brilliant. Maureen's asked a great question. Here you go, Maureen. Do you have to be careful if another spirit jumps in your body?
No, another spirit doesn't jump into your body because of your intention. The only thing about thinking about another spirit jumping into your body is obviously if you have that intention that will happen. I'm not saying it would happen because nobody has ever had that experience where somebody else has jumped into their body, because you've got 5 bodies. Okay, you've got your physical body, which is this physical thing that you drag around with on earth, okay, and then you've got your etheric body, you've got your emotional body, your spiritual body, then your bliss body, okay, so they can go into different places and different time zones in anywhere and any time and space, okay. So for us to actually meet up in any of them different ones, you know where you're actually going, because you're also guided to where you need to go with each different body, if you will, yeah? So you're still all connected. You're like a wave. You know what I mean? You're all connected in all of those. It's like when you're watching birds when they're flying around in a clump. Yeah, they never touch each other. They're in a wave, aren't they? Can move in a different direction how they'd like. That's what it's like when you're coming out of your body. Okay. At one time, I did it with a lady in a workshop down in Cober Hill, I think it was, in Whitby. And when we met her mum. My mum was stood next to her mum. That were absolutely mind-blowing. Her mum must have met my mum in a past life.
Wow.
That was phenomenal. She could never get over the fact that she was flying sideways. She said, I couldn't get myself where I wanted to be. I just kept going sideways because she'd never experienced it. But when she did it next time, it was a different ball game again. And it's like a learning curve, if you will. Yeah. But it is also a wonderful, wonderful experience. I can't, and like I say, every time I have one, I'm learning all the time. You know what I mean? Picking up bits of information from everything and everywhere at any given one time. And the fact that ESP, extraplanetary perception.
That's beautiful, Tammy. Tammy's a peaceful place by a lake to meet my son.
Well, Rudy, you get in touch with me and we'll sort that out. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. To be on that, what if someone can't or has a problem?
Well, usually sometimes it's the only first instance that most people have is the fear. It's fear. So if they don't happen the first time, we will do it the second time. Okay. And it's always exactly 2 weeks later. I don't know why it's 2 weeks later, but it has to be 2 weeks later. I don't know why that is. And I still do the research on that. But people like this term to Lee Grimes, so interested in astral projection. Astral projection is an actual American thing that they've invented. Astral projection basically is obviously you're coming out of your body, but you don't know what the purpose is to a certain extent, and you certainly don't meet up with family. You're just on a travel or a journey. Yeah, because I'm a medium, you're meeting up with that family you need that communication with and that information that you want. I mean, I've had people asking me to have this experience to find out where the deeds are for the house.
Yeah.
That's all these questions. You can imagine it. You know what I mean?
I love it. So Tracy, hi Tracy, she's asked a great question. do you do talks to help people gain awareness to not fear death? And apparently that is the basis of all fear, is death.
Yeah, sometimes as well with the fear of death, it's not necessarily the fear of death, it's the fear of how they're going to die.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, you'll get hit by a truck.
Yeah, and this is it. It's already been mapped out for you. You could actually probably go and see how you're possibly going to pass in your future. Yeah, or not in your future, but when you come out of your body. But usually, so many people say to me, the first thing they'll say, "Will I come back?" Yeah, and I'll say, "Well, certainly you will come back. It's because it's not your time yet. You wouldn't be asking that question if you knew you were going to pass." Okay, so many people say to me, "Why am I coming back?" It's because it's not your time yet. You're wanting to have this experience, it's like going on a roller coaster. Your friends egg you, well, let's go on that road. No, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. As soon as you've done it, you want to go back on it. Yeah. So this is what the feeling people get when they've had this experience. So what happens is though, your life changes. It changes within 4 days. I don't know why it's 4 days, but it's 4 days. Okay. Max Ryan, for example, had this experience. He felt like he was in a cardboard box. He was in Italy at the time and it was via Zoom. His mother said, "Mandy, you need to speak to I nearly said his real name then, but I said, so you need to speak to Max and you need to talk to him and sort him out." So that's what I did. So I explained to him what it was about, what we were going to be doing and such thing. Literally, this is when we went to Venice Beach and he wanted to meet up with his brother because he died of an heart attack at 42. He wasn't there to be with him and see him, and it was obviously they were upset about it, so he wanted to meet up with him. But obviously he met up with his brother, got out where he needed to say and ask him and such things that he wanted to know, and then he met his father. So not only did he he didn't expect his father to come in, but he did. So there were clearly something that he needed to talk to his father about that he'd missed as well. Then within 4 days, he was just inundated with phone calls with people wanting to talk to him, and it was just a shift. He called it a switch. He said it was some kind of switch that just changed his life. And we still talk today. It's lovely.
So, sorry.
That's all right.
Now, miss.
As mediums, well, we connect the spirit world anyway. So, why do you think not so many mediums do this? Because, I mean, I've tried it.
I think it's to do with the meditation that I've dedicated myself to do. I'm talking every night of dedication. I'm talking at least no more than half an hour. Anybody never lay down to meditate. That's one of the big no-nos. Never lay down to meditate, and no longer than half an hour because you fall asleep.
Yeah,
that's a big thing for me. I have set up a meditation group to tell them how and why and how and where to go and what purpose of that particular meditation is. But I think with mediums, like you said, Alison, many a medium is that I'm not saying that they can't. What I am saying is the dedication to the purpose of, And like I said, it found me in a way. I didn't find it; it found me, and so it just started to be a continuum. So by allowing that continuum, I think through all the experiences that I've actually had through the Gateway program, the mantra, the language, and such things, and obviously now it's becoming more of a physical presence, like I said earlier. It's just dedicating that time and energy to yourself. You're developing yourself, and that is the best way that you can only do. You can go to classes and such things. It's because they can talk to people who understand how they feel. And like this group that I have on a Thursday, there's people in there that have not been able to talk to people about it because they thought they were crazy or whatever they thought. I have a physicist now actually in my group. He's got 2 degrees in physics and a master's. So he's really intrigued and interested in all of it. So he's really enjoying what he's experiencing while he's in this group. So it's I don't know, it's expanding your consciousness, basically, what it's actually capable of doing. It's wonderful that, so many people feel trapped within themselves sometimes, or they feel that they've no way out. This really, really helps them to reconnect with themselves and obviously consciousness. So when you think about mediums being able to communicate with the consciousness of the person that's passed, that will determine whether they can come out of their body or not, if they would allow them to do so. That spirit might not want them to come out of the body, might not want it to communicate with them. They might not saying they're going to dislike them. They might not be at that frequency yet to be able to do that. Do you know what I mean? It's all about frequency, and we're all emanating at different frequencies. We all develop differently, you know, in mediumship. It's not a race; it's a journey. Okay,
it is a journey, and as you say, it's working on yourself as well. Something that as mediums we do work on ourselves in lots of ways, but not maybe in this way, you know, which I think is something that would be much more special, and it would be lovely for us to actually have that experience for ourselves, you know.
Well, this is how it was for you when you invited me into your Christmas thing when we did that, and yeah, I did come in. Then I went out into because she says, "Mandy, where have you gone? Where have you gone?" And then when I came back in and we said, "This is what we're going to do," the people were like, "Oh my god!" It just blew them away because like, "Oh my god, I've never had an experience like that before." And it's not necessarily they can't do that. It's developing themselves to be able to do. I mean, they might never do, you know. But or they, you know, it depends on how they're developed in their frequency as they are now. I mean, for me to have a Buddhist monk's equivalent to a Buddhist monk's consciousness at a younger age than what these monks could be in their 80s and 90s, I've obviously got it younger because of the development that I've undertaken.
Yeah. From your perspective with being able to travel, etc., there's so many questions, and I know you just touched on it as well, Alice. But for me, well, actually, before I waffle on for about 5 minutes, Chrissy's asked a great question. Let me get Chrissy's question out. Have you ever contacted someone that wasn't already for the spirit world, or they were sad, or of glad they has left? You've done a bit of texting there on the old, you know, what do you call it when it goes wrong? I think you're saying. I think Chrissy means have you ever come across anyone who didn't really want to go over but has gone over?
Oh, is that what she's asking?
I think so, yeah.
Do you mean before their time?
Yeah,
is that
before
what she means?
Over.
But sometimes it's when you say we think it's before their time, but they don't.
Yeah.
They know it's their time. But it's just us those on the earth here that are upset and possibly angry or upset that they've gone, whatever age that they're at. But for them and their soul journey, they already knew. Deep down, they already knew that it was their time. And they don't have any grievances either. When people have met up with people like that gentleman who lost his little boy at 7, he has no grievances that he's not with him physically, but he's still with him, you know, in his consciousness, So it's wonderful on that perspective that the thing as well, once you've had this experience, and like I said, it's the switch, you can connect to them and things start to shift for you. You start to, would you say, it's like giving you a power pack of development, if you will. So it's giving you a power pack to literally connect easier when you're doing your mediumship or your healing and so forth. So there's something there then within the consciousness that's, I would say, has been corrected, or if you wanted to call it put in sync, if you will. So it really changes. There is something out there with the CIA that that explains it in a different light to how I'm explaining it. The CIA did some really interesting such things in the past, and the documents are out there to read if you want to go on the CIA.
There's a lot. There's a lot, and they'll deny.
CIA and there's the secret services and all that scenario. So when you do this kind of like I say with the remote viewing side of things, the out of body experience in conjunction as a medium really comes into its own.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if I can teach people, help people, I will.
But that was my original question, man. There's got to be some ethics in all of this, because you can go spying, you can do. There must be some kind of universal law. You know, we've got to be careful. We've got to be thinking about ourselves in terms of what we do with this ability.
Yeah, well, the thing is with that ability, you this is why the governments don't want you to have this information. Governments don't want you or anybody else wants you to have it. But we all have the ability to have it. It's development, and you have to put the time and effort in. It's like anything I've said about knitting or anything. You've got to put the time and effort in. And if I can help somebody project them further on their development with an out-of-body experience, you know, then I'm quite happy to do that and to bring them into the frequency where I'm at. Because literally when I've been tested on this frequency, if you want to call it. You've all got your states of consciousness. You've got your gamma, your beta, your alpha, your delta, and your theta and your delta. For me, I'm in delta and gamma at the same time, hence the projection. Yeah. So I can literally project you into the afterlife. Yeah. And that's why I only have 1 or 2 beats per minute when I'm taking you with me.
So is it the afterlife or is it the space in between?
It's the afterlife.
Okay. See, I was always told it was like a where I've met people from the other side and had that out-of-body experience, and they've come through meditation, a lot of it, through meditation, not dream state. It's always been like symbolically like an island. And I've met in a specific island, and people have come across from the spirit world. And it's interesting, when I've seen the spirit world, it's like a magnificent city of silver and gold.
Yeah, that was years ago. I used to see that with the water. That you always used to see the water. There always water in between, wasn't there?
Yeah, always water in between, and they'd come across on a boat. But they've told me if you come across the other side, you won't be coming back.
Ah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But everybody's come back, obviously, because I'm still here. Am I really here? Or am I just in a mirage? So this is easy. When I take you to the other side, and like if you watch the film Contact and you see her on that beach, the only punchline of that film is at the very end when they actually said she was, apparently out for only a second, but the recording was 15 hours. Yeah. That's exactly this. She was pleading and pleading and pleading with him and explained to him that that's what it was, and that's where she was actually at. Yeah. This is the same scenario, but she was in a trance state in that sphere, whereas you're actually conscious of the experience.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Someone's just asked us, have they tried to stop you teaching others?
Well, this is another thing. This is why I have this group on a Thursday, which is obviously not saying it's a private group. We do things in there. I mean, obviously, Jordan, who's on here, we've done some experiments, and it's been really interesting. You also have to be mindful of where you're going and what you're doing. Obviously, because they will try and stop you doing certain things because it's for only them to know. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you could always maybe get the men in black knocking on my door. I mean, knocking on my ice cream shop and saying, "Come on, you're coming with us. There's something that we want to know this scenario." You just never know. I know what you mean. I understand that. And this is why it's a fine line, isn't it? I mean, we did an experiment a couple of weeks ago where we communicated with Nelson Mandela. Okay. And that was an interesting scenario, tapping into his consciousness and meeting up with him. And the interesting thing, I had a physical spider on my head, and I kept trying to knock it off. And there's no spiders in my room where I sit because there's no windows, so it's just a room. And then afterwards, when we were all talking about it, somebody Googled it, and apparently Nelson Mandela wrote books on spiders, which were just mind-blowing.
So, okay, what's the significance of spiders? I'm seeing them all the time.
Spiders are very spiritual, aren't they? They connect. It depends on how you see them and what's the purpose of it. But literally, this spider would just I kept still saying, "What are you doing?" I said, "There's a spider on me. There's a spider on me." And I kept knocking it off.
Yeah.
And they could see it on the group. They could see spider, and I said, "What?" And then somebody Googled it and said that Nelson Mandela wrote books on spiders.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
That was just mind blowing. Yeah, it was just wonderful that had appeared in our room at the time. Yeah. Talking again. Can you hear him, Alice?
Yeah, can you?
I can actually see him. I can actually see him behind you, and he's trying to get across your face.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he is. The other thing, Maureen. Let me get rid of that. Maureen. Where is it? Can we talk about this in Zoom, Maureen, if that's all right? We're going to go into Zoom in a little while, and we'll talk about that. We can't do anything too controversial because we'll get shut down.
Yeah.
So it is.
It can get like that. It does get like that sometimes in our group, and it's really interesting. Obviously, it is very interesting, and like Alice is quite welcome to join at some point to experience.
Yeah, I would like to come on and experience it. So yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I was going to ask now with the American CIA project, they remote viewing, and there's a book called Psychic Warrior. Now, there's some percentage of those on that program in the 70s and 80s. After the program finished, they found something over 50 or 60% who committed suicide. And they believed that they were struggling to get back because they practiced so much and so much. They didn't have a good grounding practice. It's in the book, and I can't remember. It was about 10 years ago since I've read it. But they were saying you've got to have a good grounding and reconnecting exercise, whether it be symbolically or auto-suggestive, so your subconscious knows what you're trying to do. But they found, people are jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge and all sorts.
I'm not aware of that book. I've not read that book at all.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like the film, isn't it? The Men Who Stare at Goats. That's a similar scenario, isn't it?
You know what? I'm going to giggle it, but I will let you know, Mandy, on that one. It's a good book. It's about the actual CIA program and what they went through.
Well, you know that the Russians actually started with remote viewing initially, and they still have schools today that do that. And then the Americans wanted to know all about it, and now China do. So there is a lot of controversy that goes along with, the Russians are excellent at it. I mean, they have classes on a regular basis and teach and train people all the time. Obviously, the CIA and the military, the US military, were involved with that. Obviously the Stargate project and various other things that they've developed the skill also. Joe McGonigal touches on that a lot of his videos on YouTube. He touches on that a lot. But he's a lovely man. He's a fabulous tutor, and he's actually at the Monroe Institute and does a couple of workshops a year. Definitely worth looking at that. That's the one I was invited to when I went to work with him. I'm not joking you. It nearly took me 3 months to work out what I'd actually done. It was so intense and so military based. I had no idea what I was letting myself in for. But what I did find out was that while we were doing these exercises that it was giving to us, there was only 5 of us that was able to get the first class gestalts, which are targets, as he calls it. Yeah. I was the only woman. The other 4 were men. So it was quite an intensive game, but I had no idea how competitive also it was. It was extremely competitive, which I didn't know I let myself in for, to be honest. But obviously, because it had found me, and it got quite, how would you say, I suppose a bit like mediumship, really. People got quite like, well, how come you're advanced then? I said, well, I didn't know I was advanced. It was just a natural thing for me, Yeah. So you don't know where you're actually at until you actually exercise it.
So but that also suggests then we already know how to do this. We're just remembering.
Yes, but the CIA and all the governments don't want you to remember. They don't want you to know. No. So this is probably my job to let people know how to and reconnect to that source.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what my purpose is right now.
Mandy, we really need to go in a minute, and there's so much I still wanted to ask you. We kind of feel like we've just touched on a few things, and this has been so fascinating. And thank you so much for sharing. Tracy just quickly asked a quick question. I was once working as a filing clerk and nearly putting posts into files. My colleague came into the room to say our other colleague was pregnant. I was immediately shown and told the baby was not to be born. And was a baby boy. This came true very sadly, but what was happening is spirit to convey this. So was that a message, or was she consciously connecting, do you think?
I think she was consciously connecting, but also remote viewing. She was actually communicating with that little boy's consciousness. So she knew that she had possibly picked up upon his energy to be able to convey what she was feeling and sensing with that baby. Yeah, and it, as horrible that must have felt at that time, we just knew it. Yeah, and this is our psychic senses. Yeah, remote viewing is a psychic ability. Yeah, you see, not all psychics are mediums, but all mediums are psychic. Yeah, there's a difference. Yeah. But when you were feeling that for that baby boy there, you was communicating with his consciousness, and he was explaining to you what was going to happen, and not as nice as it is, you would have an empathy for that little boy and probably sent him healing before he was born. So you did your job. You did your job there to send him healing before he came.
That's brilliant.
That's been very Mandy. It really has. Could speak to you. Keep speaking to you tonight. There's so many questions that I would like to ask as well, but we'll get more chance to do that at some other time as well.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to get you back on, Mandy. We will.
Yeah, no problem. If anybody wants this experience, they're quite happy to contact me, and I'm quite happy to offer it. That lady, I can't remember her name, who I wanted to get in touch with her son. You know, just give us an email, and we'll sort that out.
So yeah, there's your email address. So guys, have a little look. Thank you so much for coming on Spiritual Talk. We can't thank you enough. But what is next for you, though?
What is next for me is explaining to people on how and why they can actually possibly try and enhance their consciousness by allowing themselves to communicate consciously to what is actually out there at any given one time. You don't need to go to church to communicate with consciousness. You can be in the bath, you could be on the toilet. Do you know what I mean? You could be anywhere. While we're sat here talking tonight, clearly spirit's been coming, or consciousness is what you want to call that. I call it consciousness. People call it spirit. Everybody's got a different term. But they've been coming in, communicating, and they're still talking as we're talking now. So they're giving that to me, my subconscious mind, and everybody else who's in this room. So they're guiding you also to where you need to be at this moment in time.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to offer and to teach people, like me and Alice are going to be doing some work in the future to enhance people's lives here right this moment in time.
Yeah. I think it's amazing. All the voices that's just going on, you know, in the background there.
Yeah, we've had some technical issues that kept us on our toes tonight.
Yeah, it's fabulous.
Yeah.
Before you go, though, can you pick someone for a free half-hour reading? I think it's your turn, Alice.
It is.
It's last week, 1 week before, and I've got lovely Carol tomorrow for her free reading, and it'll be mine next week. But I'm away. It'll be mine next week. If you've shared, let us know you've shared. That'd be great. And can you see the comments on the right-hand side, Mandy?
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. What a lovely chat that we've all had, and questions that you've asked for. You know, and like you said, Paulie, that'd have me on here again, and you're quite happy to join us.
I've got an idea, actually. Maybe we could do a pre-record of trying this experience of trying to come out, whether we could do so. I don't know. We'll work it out and see if we can.
I can tell you something. I did this experience with a lady who's a paranormal investigator, and she has something called the SLS camera, and she actually picked up consciousness outside of me after I gave her this experience, and it was her grandmother, Doreen, and we were communicating with hand signals. So that's a future thing. So if I'm going to be doing some work with Alice, we maybe could fetch this camera up and do this experiment. It's a wonderful thing to capture it as well, also with the person that you're communicating with.
Yeah, just a bit. Yeah. Does it bring validation as well to those that don't believe?
It definitely is, because obviously it's just that we've lost our awareness of them, you know, of the communication of our families. We've lost that awareness. This is what I'm here to do, is to make people more aware.
Yeah. And I think people either have to be ready to accept that, you know, and be, you know, or if they're not ready, they won't accept it, you know.
No, it's frequency again. Obviously, there's certain tools and actions that you can to bring that up to speed. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
So, can you see the comments, Mandy? Can you pick someone who's written shared? If you can scroll up, there's quite a few.
Okay.
And thank you for joining us, guys. We really appreciate it. And remember, when we finish, we're going to go into Zoom and we're going to offer out some free messages. Lovely to see you there.
Jewel of the Moon.
Oh, who's that?
Where's that?
Jewel of the Moon.
Jewel of the Moon. Okay, it'd be nice to have your name. Can you contact? Oh, it's a great picture. There you go. There we are.
Jewel of the Moon. All right. Okay. If you can contact me, please, I'm on Alice Psychic Medium page, or alicetrevorrow@gmail.com. But I'm on Facebook. So if you contact me, then we'll definitely get arranged the private reading for you. Okay.
Brilliant. Fantastic. So, guys, it's now time to say goodbye. Thank you so much, Mandy. It's been brilliant.
Anytime.
Thanks, Mandy.
Thank you for inviting me. See you later, Alice.
Take care. We'll see you all next week. But don't forget, we're live. We're over on Zoom. Okay, guys, take care. Bye for now.
Good night.
Oh, I just pressed that and it didn't work. There we go. Try again. Take two.